Okay, last one. That's it for the whole shebang here. My name is Adonis Tampere. I am here on behalf of three individuals: Yiping Liu, Dr. Liu, Jennifer Hart, who is a colleague of mine, and of course myself. Yiping Liu, Dr. Liu, actually did a lot of the work. She has been working with these scenario-based simulations and with WARE-RET, which I'm going to explain a little bit about, for a lot longer than either Jennifer or I have. I work as a librarian and a blended instructional technologist for the University of South Florida, and basically I design online interactive simulations. So just go right into it. So what we've done, and again, Dr. Lowe has done this a lot more than I have for several semesters now. We've been producing online simulations through a water awareness research and education research experience. It's basically a grant-funded project in Hillsborough County in the state of Florida. And we basically combined teachers, middle school, high school, science engineering teachers with graduates in engineering who are providing a lot of the knowledge base, and also instructional technology. And that's where I come in, and Jennifer, my colleague. And we sort of combine the needs of the teachers in middle school and high school with simulations to sort of expand into the classroom with the knowledge from the engineers and the environmental scientist students. And we sort of combine all that and we build the simulations, what we've been doing. And we've been bringing the research experience to middle and high school classrooms. And I'll show you some examples a little bit later. Our rationale, obviously science and engineering professions are, becoming more and more funded, and that's the reason why we have this grant and we have this project. And with Hillsborough County, it's actually, I think it's the 5th largest school district in the entire US. So there's a lot of students and not a lot of money to go around. And I know that the feedback we've gotten from a lot of the science teachers was that they wanted to do things like have an aquarium for all the students to learn the nitrogen cycle, but they couldn't. So they would like to have something online that they can distribute to a lot of their students for low cost. Some of the theories: situated cognition, next generation science standards, and scenario-based e-learning. I won't go too much into that. Again, Dr. Lowe can answer a lot of those questions with that. Our research method, some of the questions we asked. Basically, how can scenario-based e-learning modules be designed for middle and high school students to learn science and engineering concepts and practices related to water sustainability research? And a lot of this, again, this e-learning, because we don't have the resources, because we have a lot of students, for everyone to have their own rain garden, for example, for every school to have that, or for every school to have their own aquarium. Some schools in affluent districts do have that, but a lot of the students don't, and that's sort of the impetus for doing all of this. And how does scenario-based e-learning impact student engagement and learning science and engineering topics and practices? So that was a really important question: is, are the students actually gaining from using these virtual aquariums and virtual labs that we're creating, or are they really missing out by not being able to actively keep a fish alive in an aquarium and things like that? So those are just some of the questions that we explored, and again, we built these for that. Our research design, design-based research. I'm sure everyone's somewhat familiar with design-based research. It's an iterative process where we went through using design principles and basically built some of these modules. We got feedback. We built them over and over again, and we went through these different cycles. We had a rather abbreviated time period. Again, she's doing this on a semester-by-semester basis with engineering students, environmental science students, and instructional technology students, all graduate students, and they're sort of coming and going. So we are building a large group of these through this wiki, which I'm actually showing here. So we have some basically lesson planning ideas. These are all coming from the high school and middle school teachers. So they would basically come up with a quick lesson plan, something that they want us to create and the engineering and science students to create. And this is all our collaborative space. And when we're finished, we start putting up some of our links to our examples, and they give feedback on that, and it's the whole iterative process. So this is an example of just something that comes straight from a teacher. This was I believe this was a high school science teacher, and she wanted a mini lesson to sort of teach photosynthesis, transpiration, and she was just sketching ideas on her notebook and basically uploading pictures and trying to collaborate with us as instructional designers that way. So we're getting their sort of needs, and we're sort of processing it through the engineering students and the science students, and going through and building these modules. And we go from these basic sketches, and we sort of show them what we can do with the software, and we get their feedback. We used a successive approximation model here. Basically, we kept designing and designing prototypes. We went through planning on each step, and then we would get feedback from various groups, feedback from the content experts, the engineering students and the science students. We would get feedback from the teachers who were, when we went and implemented our online modules, and of course the students as well. And again, these are all hosted online, and so the next group can go in and they can build on these and actually improve them. Again, we do keep getting more and more teachers wanting more and more things, so we're doing as much as we can, basically. When I was involved, this was this past semester, the spring semester, our first step was to meet. Basically, everyone came together. It was a bit tough to schedule all of this because we had, as I said, the engineering and the science students and then the teachers who were working all day. They didn't want to come at night, and it was tough to sort of coordinate everyone. But it was pretty effective. We reviewed everything that they brought in, and we sort of narrowed down who would be available to field test all of these and that sort of thing. And it was just a basic first step. Second step, we went into the design phase. This is where my group and our smaller groups took over, where we sort of took all of these ideas. We started writing scripts, putting together just basic prototypes, storyboarding things together. We had different roles, of course, within our group. My group had about 3, and we developed a virtual aquarium to teach the nitrogen cycle. We had 3 other groups working that semester. So for a total of 4 groups, we cranked out 4 projects. So phase 3, we actually took our design and we did some alpha and beta testing. We took it to individual students, one-on-one testing. We recorded everything based on that. We made improvements. We tested with a 15-year-old initially, and I took our second test I took to Strawberry Crest High School, and I believe it was all 14-year-olds. It was a group of about 20 to 25 14-year-olds. We had pretty positive results with that. So these were our examples. We had a leaf stomata lab, potable water, stormwater management, transpiration lab, and the one I worked on, which is the nitrogen cycle in aquaponics. And the main components were basically, we all sort of agreed on some central concepts to sort of uniformly create these for students so that way they could either go one after the other and not get confused. They were all different, and I'll go into that the next slide. But we sort of introduced key concepts, interactive exercises, and then slowly brought them into a scenario-based virtual environment. And that was a lot of based on what the teachers needed, and we were sort of providing sort of ancillary material. We weren't trying to teach everything all at once, but basically we were providing extra material for the teachers to use to supplement their classroom. So these are the four modules, or rather the 4 e-learning products that we put together, and we do have links to all of them that are active. If you want to go through them, that's fine. I'll briefly explain some of these. The leaf stomata lab was basically, it's a virtual microscope where students could go in and they could look at a magnified version of the leaf, and they could find where the water was coming in and out and that sort of thing. And that was really interesting to design. The group designed that microphone from scratch, or not microphone, microscope from scratch, yes. And the students could manipulate the dials on them and things like that. And they had a few set leaves that they could look at. And again, they in the the interactive portion, not just manipulating the dials, but they could record the number of stomata and per leaf and that sort of thing. The potable water is a sort of a choose-your-own-adventure. If you've ever read those type of books or been through experienced that type of media, where basically the student takes the role of someone who's lost at sea, and they're trying to decide how to get potable water and the decisions they make. And they had different things like an energy meter, hydration level. So based on the decisions they made, they either got better or worse. So the stormwater management lab basically measured transpiration, and they had a little scale there where they could measure the amount of water that was coming out of the plant. They could measure different temperatures and time of day and all sorts of things like that. The module I worked on here, nitrogen cycle and aquaponics, we actually had a scaled up version. We wanted to include temperature, pH levels, and all sorts of things. But it was actually from the feedback from the instructors. They wanted to really sort of narrow it down because we're talking about 14-year-olds, and we're coming from a graduate level, so we have to sort of narrow it down. So we narrowed it down to basically fish, rocks, and plants. Again, there's 2 modules that appeared before the aquarium. So students are getting a refresher of the nitrogen cycle in general, how it works in the environment and things like that, before they're actually given the opportunity to interact and create their own aquarium. And the goal is to go through I believe it was a 6 or 7 week, I think it was a 7-week period, and keep their fish alive. And they have the option of adding rocks and fish and plants to sort of adjust the level of nitrogen and nitrates in the water. So it was actually very successful. And just give you a view of what we used. We just used 3 basic modules. The first, was just a basic introduction to the nitrogen cycle. And the students have been studying all of this before. So again, this is just sort of ancillary material. We're not trying to teach everything at once, but we're sort of bringing them back into, to prepare them for the interactive portion. And then in the second, we sort of give them a bit of a guided interactive activity where they're sort of dragging and dropping, and they're sort of getting used to manipulating within the tutorial. And then 3, we have the virtual aquarium. We actually shortened it to 5 weeks. The final 2 weeks we took off based on the speed that the students were completing it at and their attention level. So that's just one of the aspects where we were getting a lot of feedback and changing the design as we went. So some of our testing, the one-on-one, as I said, the 15-year-old male student, we had some feedback, and the collaboration with the high school students. We had quite a number of groups, and they were very, very interested. And this is just some of the feedback. It was all very positive in terms of, the voiceovers were clear, video was clear, everything was engaging. They felt it was effective. The only the question they really disagreed with was finding the lessons challenging. And again, that was by design. They were initially extremely challenging, and based on the feedback we got, we really had to scale it down. And the teachers were actually very happy with that because they saw it as a chance to just reinforce their teaching and not turn off the students by making it too difficult for them. Completion rate was 100%. They were very, very excited, as I said, to be able to use this in the classroom setting. The classroom I went and implemented this in with the field test, they did not have access to an aquarium. They would never have access to an aquarium for their 4 years of high school. It was a sort of a lower income school, sort of in a rural area. So they were just happy to be able to have some access to some sort of interaction with somewhat of to them was a live aquarium activity. And they still use it. The teacher that was kind enough to let me go into her classroom and implement this has been sending it out to all of our other colleagues and using it. And again, that was by design, really. This is sort of the idea is that we can push these out, and it really cuts the cost of having one expensive live aquarium per classroom. So a lot of the teachers have been giving good feedback as well as the students. Some of the recommendations, the partnerships worked really well. Obviously, the the graduate students in science and engineering, working with us as instructional designers and with the teachers, we were really able to find like common ground in a sense. And the teachers were able to get a lot more done basically with our help. The scenario-based simulation and role-playing, the students found it very engaging, very motivating. This was based on feedback of all 4 modules, and again, with Dr. Lowe has been doing this in the past for several semesters now, and she's been getting a lot of feedback, positive feedback with that. Provide useful guidance in supporting design of scenario-based e-learning. So our design models, we feel that they've been working, and they've been working pretty well. Everyone's been pretty happy with the results, and no one's felt like they've been not working for them. A teacher implementation guide is recommended. Again, this is a matter of bringing the teacher into these. When we're developing these, we do talk to teachers, we do get a lot of feedback, but when we're done with these, we feel like we need to have some sort of guide for the teachers because right now, we're just sort of creating all of these and we're hosting them, so that the teachers who are getting to these a year later, 2 years later, they don't necessarily, they aren't having the interaction with us who have created these. And so they don't have basically a guide to tell them how to implement these as a group, individual work, and things like that. So that structure has not been quite built out yet. So we're still in that development phase. Research and method and evaluation assessment learning. So the self-assessment and the assessments, we have been saving those and submitting them to the teachers, but we haven't created, again, quite the framework. We're not there yet in terms of collecting a lot of the overall assessments. This is a relatively new program. And again, a lot of the theory, and again, Dr. Lowe has been doing this for quite a long time now, and I have just been involved with just one semester, but I feel like it's been pretty successful. So, does anyone have any questions? Sure.
How long did it take you to create the net objects?
We would have liked to have more time. It took us about a semester, so I'd say three to 4 months to create each one. It was working in teams of either 3 or 4 design students, with, again, help from science, engineering, graduate students providing a lot of the content. But if you're talking about the actual online structure and the online objects, about 3 to 4 months.
I think it was in Flash
We use Articulate Storyline, or not Articulate, Articulate Storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Storyline. And that was a decision made early on. Some people had more expertise in, say, Captivate, Adobe Captivate, or other e-learning modules or e-learning software. But based on everyone's skill level, we sort of settled on that. And again, we consulted teachers as well, and they were happy with the design. So it was good. We would have liked more time to obviously do more iterations, but yeah, we're happy with it. Yeah.
Do students always interact with the scenarios in the classroom? Do they do this at home?
They can do it at home. We have just been using them. I mean, the teachers have been assigning them in a variety of ways, and that's where it's not uniform yet, or they haven't built the structure yet.
I don't think it should be.
No,
I'm just asking how it's deployed. Do some teachers use it in a flipped learning scenario?
The teachers are using it in the classroom. In a sense, again, they're using it as supplemental material, where they'll explain let's say the nitrogen cycle, they'll explain the nitrogen cycle, they'll explain what it does in aquarium, and then they'll have this sort of situated learning where they'll present it in the classroom, the students are either in groups of 2 or 1.
This is really a virtual lab.
Yes, it's a virtual lab. They're basically 4 virtual labs that I'm doing.
I see.
There's nothing stopping students from doing it at home.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Do students typically work in groups or alone when they do that?
I intentionally, when I field tested the nitrogen cycle lab, I had groups of individuals and also groups of 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, I think, one group of 3 students, because I wanted to record basically their interactions and their satisfaction levels with going through it. And the students were more engaged in groups of 2.
Mm-hmm.
The students who were working on their own, it took them a bit longer, and they they weren't quite as engaged as the groups of 2. So that's one of our recommendations, is for teachers to sort of use this as small group projects. Yep. Any other questions?
You know of anybody doing studies with adult learners like this?
No. Again, this is a grant-funded project, so I don't know of anything on a large scale that people are using with adult learners. But I mean, it's a really fascinating concept that, you know, these groups can come together and produce some pretty good stuff.
Okay.
All right. And that's it.
Thanks a lot.